And tonight, I have a great guest. I believe that our future of healthcare really belongs to you. It really belongs to informed patients. It's not, it doesn't belong to big pharma. It doesn't belong to big health. It belongs to you. And you need to hear things like our call tonight so you can make decisions for yourself and take care of your own healthcare destiny. That's why I bring on these guests and have these conversations with physicians and scientists and researchers, industrial leaders, all in the fields of health, longevity, and performance. And together we can talk about the challenges in healthcare now and challenge your conventional thinking and give you the tools that you really need to take care of your own healthcare destiny. And so my guest tonight is Dr. Brett Brimhall. He's a chiropractor, wellness educator, functional health practitioner, 25 years experience in healthcare. And he was part of the scientific advisory board for the last 9 years. He actually just came off. I think I was kind of maybe the guy that replaced him on the board. They always like to have somebody that's not afraid to get up on stage and speak. He helps individuals optimize brain health and body performance through evidence-based nutrition, lifestyle medicine, and he has the Brimhall Performance System that empowers patients to live healthier, stronger, and more energetic lives. So thank you, Dr. Brett, for being here tonight. I truly do. I absolutely respect you. And every time we do a call together, it's always amazing. So I'm really glad to have you on tonight.
I appreciate that, Dr. Jeff. It's fun to be a part of a community where there's so many different walks of life and even walks of medicine that combine and see a common vision. So I resonate very highly with what you said. Is really the future of medicine or health is directly given back to the individuals, and I think you're seeing that in a big way with what we're seeing in medicine right now and in education. So it's I'm grateful that you've organized this so we can be a part of that. So thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. I have to, I have to throw out some accolades. I spoke at the health practitioners meeting at the last convention in Las Vegas. And when I came off the stage, the first person to congratulate me about doing my talk was Dr. Brett. So that just shows, what kind of guy he is and what kind of respect we have for each other. So I want to start, and if for those of you that don't know Dr. Brett, he is really one of his big expertise is brain health. And I went into, and we call them, I don't know, like a 7-Eleven. In Florida, we call them Jiffy stores. I went into a Jiffy store today and I walked in and there was a cooler, probably the size, probably 8 feet by 3 feet, and it was full of energy drinks. It had every variety that it had the Red Bulls and the coffee drinks and the all the high caffeine energy drinks. And we have our own energy drink. And I think energy drinks are huge business right now. And so I want you to talk a little bit about what makes brain nutritional health with our energy drink different than a lot of the stimulant drinks that are around, and how you focus on brain health in your clinic.
For sure. I actually love that you went in and looked at a store like that. And I actually believe that people make their choices with their wallets. And when I walk in a store or when I walk in a convenience store specifically, and I see that there's more choices in beverages when it comes to energy drinks than there is in water, we have a severe problem. But it also tells me there's a huge need that people are looking for something. Like people are looking for energy. And unfortunately, many of us, even in medicine, are addressing energy from a body perspective and not a brain perspective. Yet the vast majority of our tasks that we perform daily are brain-based tasks. We fatigue way faster mentally than we do physically. Because of that, I don't think people are they're not dumb. They just are looking for a solution, and they're going to what they're familiar with. And so, whether that's coffee, tea, whether that's soda, whether that's energy drinks, people are looking for more energy, and they're finding it in forms that are non-sustainable. So they might have an effect, right, where they have short-term energy, but it's not long-term. Because truly, if it was an energy drink problem and the energy drinks were the solutions, we wouldn't continually need more of them. We wouldn't need continually need higher doses of them. I kind of got fascinated with brain early on in my career. Really, because I remember as I was in my dad's office years ago, I was working with a lady and doing massage and cranial work, and she had a closed head injury. And what that means is she looked fine. She looked totally normal, yet she couldn't perform normal basic tasks from mental tasks. And it was like, how is that possible? Like, she looks fine, and had a really hard time, you know, defining her problem because they couldn't see it with standard medicine. And now, again, fast forward years and decades later, what we have with LifeVantage is we have a new way of addressing the energy crisis in people. And the understanding that the brain is struggling because it is not getting what it needs in order to form a memory or a thought that allows you to perform a task and fatiguing way too fast. So people are looking and reaching for what it is. So whether that's somebody that's a mom that's just trying to get through her day, but there's specific times where we tend to have brain insults that where people start really feeling the effect, and we see it in kids all the time, right? Because they have a hard time focusing or concentrating, or we see it in adults where maybe they have an injury, like physical injury, like a concussion, or severe emotional trauma, stress, and you start seeing it. And then, or you see it also in hormonal changes, whether that's from stress or from postpartum, or whether that's from hormonal changes of perimenopause. So my fascination with brain runs really, really deep, and it really shifted when somebody said to me, like, the reason why people are tired is because they're mentally tired.
Yeah. No, there's no
And
doubt about it. And yeah, you look back and you look back, my parents didn't have this issue. I look back, I like to go back 50 years, 1975, 1976. And, my parents really didn't have these issues. And, you look at how we get bombarded every day with oxidative stress, and just that oxidative stress is affecting our brains, it's affecting our hormones, down-regulating most of our hormones that we need to function on a daily basis. So people are looking, and obviously the advertising people understand that, or they wouldn't have a 8 foot by 3 foot cooler inside the door of 7-Eleven selling energy drinks. It's obvious. And, so you brought up a bunch of different people. You brought up moms, you brought up menopause, you brought up kids. Let me go to kids because, one of the things that I get asked because I'm on the scientific advisory board, and I'm sure you've been asked this question a lot, is what is your favorite combination of activators? And if you poll anyone on the scientific advisory board, that answer is probably different. And because I lost a lot of weight, obviously I like Mind Body and Protandem, but it's not my favorite. My favorite is probably similar to Brett's, and it's a little different than probably what most people on this call tonight think. My two favorites are Axio and NAD because of the brain health, because of the brain effects. I think it really changed people. I saw it change my son. My son has ADHD, had a hard time focusing in school, was on the prescription drugs probably for 5 or 6 years, went off of them when he became kind of an adult around age 18. So tell me your thoughts. Like, parents are talking about how their kids are struggling to focus and maintain attention, and they're so distractible. And I think a lot of it is because of what we've done by giving them electronics that try to keep their focus. And I think it really changes the way that they look at things.
yeah,
So tell
for
me some
sure.
stories about how you feel about our kids and what we can do to really change their school performance and really change their brain function and give them a better chance in life.
Yeah, if you want to have optimal brain function, there's just several things that have to happen. Okay, and to me, like you said, there's I tell people really brain health or really cellular health really tied into communication. Can you hear? Can you integrate? And can you respond? All right, that's really the foundation of all forms of communication. This is also intercellular. So when it comes to brain health, you have to be able, the cell has to be able to hear. So for me, like the proton, all the thing that basically breaks up communication is founded in inflammation, and that's all proton nerve 2. So if I can reduce inflammation with nerve 2, and then I can make sure everything's there for the brain to actually be able to respond, which is NAD and Axio, I have a winning combination for brain. Now that's just all things considered. Like that's if they can absorb it. So if they can't absorb it because their gut's dysfunctional, that's where you're going to have to factor in like getting the gut healthy. Whether that's using what we use, is we call the healthy edge stack, right, to heal the gut function, and then come back to it. So just understand that's to me like if you're like just bringing up the young individuals, children, like I would consider very heavily if you're going to use nutrition, right? Use the thing that makes you have a healthy gut. Use the proton nerve 2. Use the Axio, because that's going to help make sure the brain can hear and then also respond and communicate. Now, NAD, like you said, has huge benefits for brain. And you can see that in individuals, especially younger, children and stuff, and even young adults that aren't focusing because they're using stimulant medication. So that would be my kind of my go-to if I'm looking to brain performance in that category individual, and that could be even in sports. Like you have somebody that's sports concussions or worried about like injuries. I would rather them be. So what you know about concussions, if someone had a healthy nutritional brain before the injury is much less problematic. So all my athletes, I'm going to encourage them to be on protanum nerve 2, protanum nerve 1, and axial bare minimally. Because if I do that when they get an injury of any kind, they're going to have much better response and healing time than if they do not.
Yeah, no, there's absolutely. I played both college and professional football, and I've had my share of concussions, obviously, and you're absolutely right. I mean, I think the healthier you are, the quicker that you recover. I love the fact that you brought up the gut health part because when I was going through my weight loss journey, that was one of the things I noticed about my body is people if people had an inflamed gut, my body didn't work for them. They needed their gut to be healthy. They needed that gut inflammation to go down, so their L cells that line the gut could make GLP-1. And obviously, it's the same thing with the brain. A lot of our neurotransmitters, dopamine and serotonin, are made in the gut. They're not made in the brain, and so that gut-brain connection is really important.
So because we are all responsible for our own health, like that's something that's a key point you brought up, Dr. Jeff, is like if someone you're working with is not getting the results they're looking for and they're taking the products, I would really come back to gut function. Like make sure that part has been addressed, because if it hasn't been addressed, it's hard to get the benefit when the heart body's having a hard time absorbing it. So it's great that you brought that up.
Yeah, I think there's a great connection, and I think to be honest with you, I mean we're in healthcare, and I know there's people. I'm looking across the gallery, and I know there's people on here that are in the healthcare field, and I think most of us probably understand how important the gut is, but I think the general population really doesn't understand the fact that if your gut's not healthy and you're not able to absorb the things that you're putting in, whether it's supplements, activators, or big pharma products, if you can't absorb them, then you're not getting any benefit from them. If you're
Yeah.
taking your multivitamin every day and your gut's not healthy, you're not getting anything from it.
Yeah, obviously, people are on here are a little weird like us. They're looking for other solutions, and because I even had a conversation with two individuals today that have been told by medical professionals that are medically trained that it really doesn't matter. Gut health doesn't matter, nutrition doesn't matter, and now that has shifted. But understand, like you got to take control of your health. And so if something doesn't resonate, it doesn't make sense, even with what we say, like I challenge you, like dig into what we say, and really kind of see if it makes sense. Because if someone says, it's okay to drink a Red Bull. It's okay to like eat a donut and expect your body to perform this. Perform this. You would never say that. Like I'm going to feed my dog a donut and expect the dog to feel good. And so I think it's just, and again, I don't talk to the choir here, but like you need to have a gut check when it comes to how it feels, and make sure it resonates with you. But at the same time, like when you do the thing that we're talking about, you should feel a response in your body, but do it long enough, especially brain-based stuff. You can't expect that someone that's had a brain-based problem for a long time to all of a sudden feel better within a minute. Some do. Some feel like drastically better in how they think and perform, but the longevity of how well that allows the nervous system to regulate that could take longer time. So just keep that in mind when you're dealing with brain-based problems. You need to give it the time, especially in the case of injuries or trauma. And an injury, like I said, is both a physical trauma. There is what's called a physical concussion. There are emotional concussions. All right. There are also chemical concussions. Trauma to the brain because of chemical onslaught. Now you can think of like certain recreational drugs, but it can also happen because of poor diet. That can also cause chemical concussions all the time. That basically affects how the brain performs.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. One of the things I always like to talk about is, if we look at the way our diets changed in the last 50 years, we have gone 1975, 5% of the American diet was ultra high processed foods. In 2025, it was 70%. So we're getting that onslaught of chemical trauma on a daily basis. Because of that, we're seeing a huge rise in autism. Autism spectrum disorder went from 1 in 10,000 children in 1975 to 1 in 31 today. And I
Mhm.
know that you see a lot of autism in your practice. And I know that we have to tread really lightly, especially I'm on the scientific advisory board and you are coming off of it. But let's talk a little bit because I'm sure that everyone on this call knows one or two children that are autistic.
Yeah, let's talk about that in this sense. From when you look at a individual, whether it's somebody that's been diagnosed with autism or whatever it might be, um, what's happening is they're having a hard time being able to take in information, regulate themselves, as well as then communicate back. So the frustrations you see, the difficulty with speech that you see as a result of them either not being able to receive the information, integrate the information, or get it back out.
It's
And
processing.
the processing part. And what I want people to understand, like this can happen in all forms of us, whether you're diagnosed or not. But the rates have gone up drastically, and unfortunately I see this way too often, and people are told way too often that they can't improve that. And I don't agree with that at all. And it doesn't mean you're gonna. And I don't want to change these individuals. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I want to do is allow them to have more full expression of their life, whatever that may be, so that they are safe and that they can gain the confidence they want to be able to hopefully be on their own if that's in the cards. So when you look at brain health and you look at individuals who have been diagnosed with these different things, if they're not doing the things we're talking about, they are going to manifest less life than they would otherwise. And I can promise you that because I've seen both. And now that doesn't mean that means they won't have any struggles, but their ability to perform and to be more successful in life is drastically to improve if we can in fact get rid of the difficulty with the body eliminating the toxins through the nerve 2 pathway, improving how the mitochondrial function, improving how the cells communicate, improving gut function. Like every single one of those things, if we compound that effect, they will have way more expression than you'll see otherwise. But if you do it for a day, it's not going to do the thing if you do it for a lifetime. And that's what's so critical. I watch people yo-yo diet, right? And they eat for a while and change things. You have to understand this is a lifestyle shift, and that's where the personal accountability comes in. But if whatever tool and resource you have, and I'm hoping that as you guys hear this, that you're thinking, okay, make a different commitment for yourself. Is that you stay consistent on whatever it is that you're going to do and applying these certain principles, but do it for a lifetime. Because if you'll do that, the things we're talking about, the principles never change. The products we're utilizing may change over time, but I don't know of other products that do what these do to allow us to allow that person to allow the systems that are struggling to manifest. And you can look up all sorts of things when you talk about like nerve 2 and autism and gut dysfunction and autism, like because we know they're directly tied. Oxidative stress and autism, mitochondrial dysfunction, autism, they're directly tied. So what is the thing that you can do to improve those systems? That's what we do. And if you'll do it long enough, you'll see improvement.
Well, you're absolutely right. And I think the commitment has to be there, either if it's an adult with the patient or with the parents. And I think it's hard. I think it's hard to raise a child in 2025 when you're being bombarded by advertising and both parents are out of the house working and you have to put a meal on the table at night. It makes it really difficult. I can tell you, I was in a business networking event one morning this week, and one lady brought her probably 7 or 8 year old to the event because she didn't have daycare for that day. and this 7-year-old was drinking a 20-ounce full sugar soda and 2 donuts for breakfast. What are they setting that child up for?
And I love that about these conversations we're having because you know that all that matters. So if you feel like that, you guys, our job is not to judge. It's to say, okay, let's just ask honest questions. And if you're here, it's not these most of the stuff we're telling you is not like rocket science. So I want to talk to, and I got a couple things I want to kind of talk you guys through so you know how this might benefit each of your different populations of people. Um, so when it comes to brain health, there's some key things to know if you're struggling. And this can be, you know, and think of, so if your ability to learn, retain, remember, and recall. All right. So if you feel like you're struggling in any of those areas where the ability, where you're having a hard time learning, where you think that you have to repeat stuff more often, or feel like your retention is not where it used to be, and that can be like remembering names, that can be like remembering different tasks you're supposed to do, and then your ability to communicate back. And also overwhelm. Like if you get like multiple tasks going and you're like, okay, I forgot to do something, that's an indication there's a struggle in the communication systems of this of the brain cells. This is where, and also if you find yourself reaching for things when you're tired, right, to try to pull you out of the fatigue state, whether that's the afternoon fatigue or whether that's you're trying to, you know, at work, like all of those things are giving you indication that the brain is fatiguing. And so it's important to then say, okay, am I doing the things that supply the energy for my brain? And am I doing it in a healthy way where I'm just not kicking a tired brain? So a kicking a tired brain would be a stimulant. Okay, whether that's a risky behavior or whether that's a medication or whether that's like high doses of caffeine or 3 shots of espresso in the morning. Just kidding, dog. Right. But if you're doing things that you're having to kickstart, now understand that there are benefits to stress, but if it's consistent where you have to do that and you find yourself doing having to do more of that, that's an indication. So where I see this, you know, long term, if you want to have a healthy brain long term, so we're talking about forever, as long as possible, so you have a brain that's healthy all the way into your late ages. When you read books like Dr. Bredesen talks about the end of Alzheimer's, it's critical that we do the things we're talking about, which is reducing the inflammatory process in the cells, make sure the brain has the nutrients that it needs, and then doing the behaviors that allow the brain to rest. If you're dealing with those phases of your life where there's increase in stressors or demands, like perimenopausal states, or you know, high levels of stress, understand when you're going through those higher levels of stress, it's more important to give yourself more of the nutrients, and then protecting the sleep patterns and identifying if I'm adding stimulants to my life. That's a telltale sign that you're trying to force the body to do something. And so when I think of Axio specifically and the benefits it has, if anybody you know is on an energy drink or drinking colas or sugary drinks because they're tired, they're telling you, look, I need brain health. And that's where the Axio is going to play in and have a huge benefit. Then looking at the behaviors that would improve that. Um, I truly believe everybody on the planet should be drinking Axio because it's the easiest way that I know of to give your brain what it needs to not only learn but retain, remember, recall, and the effects are cumulative. Because like when you learn how to like add, or you learn how to spell, then you can form words. When you can form words, you can form sentences. When you form sentences, you form paragraphs. And when you can do that, you can communicate. The cells, the brain cells are no different. When the brain cell itself can, in fact, learn, it can continue to learn. That's where progress comes from. And with progress comes confidence, and with confidence changes performance. Now, and again, this is how important this is that we do. And I would always say, people always say, well, like, you know, it costs. It does cost. All right, it costs not to do this and it costs to do this, but people
Yep.
are spending money anyway. So give them the option of this, is my opinion, and then let them decide. And just know the effects of anything you do or don't do is cumulative. And the brain is like a muscle in the sense of the more you practice anything, the easier it becomes. So if you practice being anxious, your brain learns how to be more anxious. If you practice feeling sad or putting yourself in sad situations or around sad people, your brain learns to be more sad. It doesn't mean there's not real things going on, but understand that the habits and behavior you have and the repetition of it is what brain learns the loop. So anyway, I do want to kind of touch on that stuff. I know I got
Yeah.
to go
And
and
you said it's expensive, but three Axios is cheaper than three shots of
oh,
espresso.
way
So,
cheaper.
it depends on what you want to spend your money on. So we talked about kids. Let's talk about adults. Let's talk about the fact that people are going through menopause earlier, men are going through andropause earlier. Um, and with those are associated, especially with lower testosterone, it's proven that lower testosterone shows decreased brain function. So, what can we do both in men and women? So, what can we do with the aging brain? What can we do in our 30s, our 40s, and 50s to protect our brains in the 60s, 70s, and 80s?
Yeah, a lot of this comes down to your brain doesn't care how many years you've been alive, it cares how hard you ran it. And so when you're seeing people show up with earlier, people going to puberty more or sooner, or going through menopause sooner, what all relates to how stressed their system is. So again, foundationally speaking, remove the obstacles you can, but like supporting your system with the ability to make energy, communicate, and control inflammatory process. So to me, that's the trisynergizer. That's those three products. But for me, brain wise, like I personally take the Axio preventatively. It's not because I feel tired. It's because I've watched what it's done in a really tired brain, and I want to perform at a certain level. And this is true. And so those individuals that are older, let's say there's somebody that's in the later, and they feel like I'm not remembering stuff like I used to. Please give them the proton nerve too. Please give them the NAD, but please give them the Axio, because that's going to allow the brain to one perform, but also protect it. I can't tell you how many different people, individuals that were older, that I think so much clearer when I do my Axio. I have people that were going into the dementia stages and forgetting things, and now feel like they're actually like remembering people they didn't remember before. Like, so there's just benefits just in of itself, but long term, what that gives people is a healthy brain long term, so they can stay proactive and active. And
No,
I'm sure there's multiple people that have seen that same thing. And not saying this isn't fixing a condition. Understand that. What we're doing is we're supplying the brain with what it needs in a form that it can utilize, that allows them to perform the things they want to do.
no, absolutely makes sense. Now I saw you get up and move. So are we getting close to having?
Yeah, I'm getting close. I was just
Yeah.
picturing my wife
So
didn't
so
either.
Dr. Brett, we didn't realize after he committed to me that he had another engagement. So I told him I'd keep him right around 30 minutes, and we're right there. So I'm going to ask him, I guess, one final question, maybe two final questions, but I'll let him go through them quick. First question is, if everything that we covered tonight, if the people that are listening can take home one big thing, what should that one big thing be?
The one thing I'd say two. The one big thing, please take responsibility for your health. Like, please. And with that, what that means is identify, understand, and listen to your body, so it doesn't have to yell at you. And start incorporating those behaviors, and specifically when it comes to how you sleep and how you eat and who you hang out with. Like, if you do those things, you do nothing else, please do that. And if it doesn't make sense, if anybody says that what you do doesn't matter, it does. Then on top of that is, please, if you're not familiar with activation, if you're not familiar with what we do at LifeVantage, if you're not applying these particular products and resources, like this thing you put on, Jeff, to allow us to learn, Dr. Jeff, like, please participate in those things, and allow your friends and family to, so that they can hear what the current research is. When I talked to this lady today, multiple sclerosis or diagnosis, and the doctor told her that oxidative stress is not associated with mitochondrial, not associated with multiple sclerosis. And I just said, he's wrong, and he needs to read the current research. Um, Unfortunately, the things that you want to know are happening now in research, not 20 years ago.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. I had somebody tell me the same thing last
Yep.
week on Parkinson's disease.
Yep.
Somebody said, "Oh, my doctor told me that oxidative stress does
Yeah.
not play a role at all in the Parkinson's
Yeah.
disease."
So, and again, if this isn't about Dr. Jeff and I being right. This is people that have come into us, and we don't know how to help them. So we've had to look outside of what we were taught in school. And what I hope is start applying these principles, be consistent with them, because it won't change overnight. But I can promise you, what you don't do matters, and what you do matters. and be consistent. And one the staying on top of things like Dr. Jeff and I do, like you're going to learn things that hopefully you're gonna wish you knew way before somebody else, and start applying them.
So last question, and I always end with this. So we talked about what life was like in 1975. We talked about what life is like today. If we can flash forward 10 years, so let's see, 2036, what do you think the world is going to need then compared to what it needs now?
Well, I think you're going to see what we do right now become standard care. I think you're gonna see people come in and people are gonna say, are you activating your gene pathways for health? They'll understand what the gene weaknesses are, understand how they can treat them. I think that's where we'll be. And the one thing will still be there is personal accountability.
Yeah.
That will always be there. We'll have better tools, better resources, better science, but at the end of the day, it's going to have to come back to personal accountability. So that's where I see it, and I hope that we have more personal accountability where physicians are paid based on results, not based on they're covered by insurance.
Yeah, not based on the 6 minutes that you got to spend with the patient that day. Absolutely
100%.
true. And that's where things are going. And so I think that's a great way to close. Brett, thank you so much for being here tonight. It's always awesome to talk with you. In 2 weeks, I'm doing this again, and in 2 weeks, it's going to be interesting. I'm going to bring on some more chiropractors. I'm going to do a chiropractic roundtable discussion. So I'm going to have 5 or 6 chiropractors on, and we're going to talk about how they incorporate activation and our products. We're going to talk a lot about liquid collagen because believe it or not, liquid collagen is very, very important in outside of
Yeah.
cosmetics and outside of aesthetics. We're seeing some amazing things. So we're going to do that in 2 weeks. Maybe Dr. Brett will jump on that as well, but we're going to talk. We have a lot of chiropractors on the scientific advisory board with me. So join me in 2 weeks. Thank you for being here, and thank you for helping me continue to explore the science and strategies that you guys can use to take care of your own health destiny, your own wealth, and your own well being. And so until next time, this is Dr. Jeff. Stay healthy, stay curious, and keep making a difference. I love each and every one of you. Have a great night. Bye bye.